Hello and welcome to Aussie Tech Security episode 14. I'm Glenn Goodman and soon to be joined by Roger Smith, but we'll hold him off for 1 second because we have to thank athwebhosting.com.au for all your web hosting needs. Contact them or go to the website athwebhosting.com.au and RNI Security, I think. Consulting, rniconsulting.com.au. I know it's every episode, isn't it? I'm scrolling as I'm going, ATH web hosting, scrolling up. I didn't make it. All right, how are you, Roger? Good to be with
Glenn. You got it right eventually.
I did, yes, eventually, yes. All right, so this episode, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what we know better than you.
Yes. What we want to do is cover 2 points of assumptions that people make. One is that the IT people and security people really don't know what they're talking about, because we're always nose in the IT stuff, and we don't give a damn about the users and all that sort of stuff. And the attitude that it won't happen to me, and we've seen a number of environments where it won't happen to me has really come back and kicked someone in the rear end,
yes,
really hard, and it happens really regularly. We don't see enough reports about it happening in small and medium business, because what happens is you get compromised, you lose all your money, you go out of business, and you start another business somewhere else. We don't see that because it's a really big. There's too many things happening, and especially with things like crypto virus around at the moment, it's pretty scary stuff, actually.
So there'd be a lot of, I suppose, when something does go wrong, there'd be immense amounts of blame shifting, and all this sort of stuff. You'd imagine. One of the good ones is, you ring up maybe not ATH web hosting, but you ring up someone else and say, well, why is my site down? Why are your servers down or something? Which mine never do, by the way. But you ring up someone else and they go, oh, Telstra's, they've dug up a pipe or they've dug up a pole or something, and, it's brought the whole of Sydney down. But it's really probably their fault. There's someone, done the wrong thing at their end, at the hosting end.
It really is. One of the things that recently I was talking about at my lecturing job was that when it comes to this type of problem, a lot of the web hosting systems don't look at the underlying infrastructure, and it's very easy to compromise the infrastructure, and then everything above that then becomes a compromise as well. And that is really a huge problem we've got at that level.
I suppose, just sitting with the web hosting thing there for a sec, because obviously not many people own their own physical web server, in a data center or whatever. So how do you make sure, or is there any rules of thumb where you go, okay, well, I'll pick this mob over this mob because of A, B, and C, or is it you just go, well, we'll just hope nothing goes wrong?
I think the most important thing is to pick a reputable company, someone who has a track record, someone who actually has security as a focus for their business. It's no use, as you said, standing up a server and then putting 30 websites on it and then hoping for the best that you're not going to get compromised. Some of the things that we see regularly, as in the white hat hacking area, is we'll get told that PHP's got a compromise and it's this, but it's been fixed in version next one comes out. And we will look at some of the web hosting companies, and they're still 9 or 10 versions behind what the systems are coming out with. MySQL is another one, very similar. MySQL, PHP, all of these things that make up a website really is something that they need to look at pretty regularly.
Yes, because I know with most, even with the control panel that I use with mine, you've got a number of, you've got the standard PHP, but you can also jump up in versions if you need to.
Yes.
To near to the latest one.
Yep.
And that's only so so we don't change the version natively because it might break people's sites.
Well, this is right, but the trouble is, if we don't, it is a fine line you have to walk, especially if you're delivering these sort of products to a client. You have to make sure that, yes, things are going to work. And as I was talking before about control systems, if we change it from Windows XP, which most control systems are sitting on to Windows 7, there is a very good chance that things out in the field, things that are really critical, start stopping and not working properly and all this sort of stuff. So it is a fine line that you have to walk between having the right variation and version on a system, or being able to cover that, yes, we've got a compromise, how do we protect ourselves from it?
So now that, I know we're probably just meandering around, we'll get to the topic eventually. Yeah. This is all to do with the topic anyway. But like, say I've got an XP machine. It's all up to date as far as, as you can. Yep. So Windows doesn't support it anymore. There's no more security updates anymore for it. It's obsolete by 3 or 4 versions. Are hackers still writing for XP? Or do they go, well, that's unsupported, we're going to leave it alone?
No, they're still writing for it. One of the things you really have to be aware of is that even though XP has been taken out of the system and there's no more upgrades and updates and everything else for it, we've still got 20 to 30% of the population still using it. Whether it's in a government department, whether it's in an SME, there is an XP box that is around somewhere.
Yeah, right.
And you've got to remember that the digital criminal works on the principle of once they're in, they will then work on other things. So if you've got an XP box in your network that people are actually using, there is a very good chance that it can be compromised.
So I guess, and I suppose all the way up, like Vistas, that's probably out of... they've probably stopped updates to that now. Windows 7, that's coming to the end, if not already ended. Yeah. All right. So we know better than you. It could never happen to us. Now, that's probably something you would hear a lot until it does happen, and that's when you get called in, Roger. It's happened.
This is very true. We try to put forward to a client that we do know what the cyber criminal is doing. Not so much we know how they're doing it, but we do know that the cyber criminal is a clever beast. They really are. Our biggest problem with the hackers and being compromised is not so much being targeted by a proper hacker, because you have to have something that's going to get them out of bed. And as they say, they won't get out of bed for more than $100,000. So that if you haven't got that sort of vulnerability or access to that sort of cache, they probably won't target you. The trouble is those hackers they do a Microsoft. They create a product which they either give away or sell to smart 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, put it on their PC, and they then target other people. If they find a compromise or find a way into a system, that information goes back to the hacker. Even though they may be using that information to do whatever they're doing, the actual compromise and what they've written and the Python scripts and the power command features that they've written, all that information goes back to the hacker who created the software they're using. Right. So it's like Microsoft. Someone finds a compromise, Microsoft fix it, and then they push out an update.
Yes.
Well, slightly different. Someone finds a compromise, it goes back to them. The next version that comes out of them goes to everybody.
Yes.
Okay,
right.
So you now have everybody who understands what that compromise is. They know what your IP address is. They know they can get in via, as I said, PHP maybe, and they can then target that properly. They've also now found out that person whose system that is based on has a vulnerability. Let's do a bit of social engineering to find out who they are, what they're doing. And then the hacker then has these scouts, and there are bloody millions of them out there who are just collecting this information that is feeding these cybercrime gangs.
Yeah, that's I didn't know it worked like the Windows updates.
It's just phenomenal. Yeah, there's a criminal gang in the Ukraine who decided they were going to have a decent product to sell. And what they did was they created a hacking tool. It cost you need 3 criteria. You've got to be a criminal for one, and they do actually do a background check on you to make sure you're a criminal.
You've been in the slammer or something.
Yeah, you have to have a criminal record. Wow. You have to speak Russian.
Right.
And you have to have 4,000 euros. Now, if you meet those 3 criteria, they will sell you this product.
Right.
Now, the good thing about this product, to them, not to everybody else, is that if you decide that you're going to target X and X has a problem, but you know that if I write a script for doing this and my script doesn't work properly and all that sort of stuff, you can actually ring them up on their support line and get help.
Dear, oh dear.
So they're running this as a business.
Why can't the law catch up to this?
Because it's very hard to get inside the circle, because you've got to be a criminal to start off with.
Yeah, but they could pose as one.
Yeah, they can do, but it's a very hard process to get into because that's how these cyber criminal gangs work.
Right. All right. So so you see a lot of people that thought they knew better.
Yes.
And then something has happened to them.
Yes.
What type of, when you go out to their site, when you first do your first little intro or whatever, do you find that they've got rules or they've got no rules? In most cases,
90% of businesses don't see a computer for what it is. Okay, yes, what we see on the screen is how we use it. We double click on something, up comes a program, we use the program, we put information into it. To make that program work, there is a lot of computing power going on behind the scenes. Windows XP had 45 million lines of code in it.
That's a few.
XP, Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10 have gone up in scale. Right. And I think Windows 10 is pretty close to 100 million lines of code. It's huge.
Wow.
So it doesn't take much for someone to make a mistake somewhere along the line.
Yes.
Or they've got systems that have been incorporated from Windows 95, and we've actually seen this. Did you know up until Windows 10, the calculator you used to bring up on Windows?
Yeah.
Hadn't been changed since 95.
No, that'd be right.
Yeah,
yes.
They got changed in Windows 10, but prior to that, it was exactly the same coding, exactly the same product. So if there was a compromise in that system, then there's a very good chance that it's now been incorporated into the newest versions.
Yeah, right.
That just makes the developer's life easier, because that's how they go about doing. Oh, well, I need that in the system. I need that in the system, and they just modularize it, not thinking that the module that they're using may be old code, maybe harder to do, maybe easier to code now if you did it properly. All of that sort of stuff, and they don't think of those things anymore.
And because Windows 10 pretty much is still, would you say fairly backwards compatible with?
It is backwards. I actually did an upgrade on my laptop and actually had a look at what changed. And the look and feel has changed, but a lot of the computing power in the background is exactly the same as what Windows 7 was. Yeah. All they've done is just rolled information over the top of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so what type of rules should be existing in, say, what are the bread and butter rules that you?
We've got 6 fundamentals. Okay, you need a decent firewall. Yeah, and I'm not, as I said, we've already discussed this a few times. You need something that you're not going to buy from Harvey Norman, but you need something that is going to do the job. So you need to pay anywhere between $500 and $700. Or $500 and $2,000 really, but you can get a decent router from Cisco for $500 if you know where to go and who to talk to.
Yeah.
So you've got a decent firewall. You need to patch everything, and this is also where it comes in, that you need to patch your operating systems as well as your applications. So when Java comes up and says I have an update, I need to patch it. Yes. You don't need to do it straight away, but it's a very good idea to do it within a short space of time. You need to run an antivirus.
Yep.
Because antivirus, even though the professionals say it's a waste of time, it still catches the old stuff. Yes. Okay, and the old stuff is really important.
Yep.
Also, on top of that, your firewall and your antivirus cannot have the same engine. Okay, right. So what you're doing is you're getting double layered protection for malware, viruses and all that sort of stuff, because one might catch it, the other one might miss it.
So what you're saying there, in that example, in that instance, is you might have the AVG antivirus, but go away and get an Avast firewall.
Yes, right. Exactly right.
So would they still coexist on the computer then? Like, because I know you can't have 2 antiviruses, but
if you have, in most cases they do.
Right. Okay.
You can install them in different ways, and
Right.
also on top of that, you have got Microsoft's Windows 10 Defender, which is becoming a regular site that we see because people now go Defender's on there. I don't need to worry about it.
Yep.
If you install an antivirus, Defender is still running.
Right.
Okay,
right.
so you've got two versions. So
Yes.
we've got firewalls, we've got patching, we've got antivirus, we've got passwords.
Yep.
Okay, and if anybody tells me that I'm not going to worry about having a complicated password for my practice software that runs my whole business, then you're an idiot. Sorry, but you are.
Yes.
Someone told we've got a client who just put in a new database system, and the developer told them that username and password is initials for all users. And I went, what the hell are you doing?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
so everything that this critical information that you're putting into your system about all of their clients and all of their information is protected by two-letter password. And if you know anybody in there, then you've already worked out what the passwords are.
Yeah.
And once again, it comes down to not understanding what the bad guys are doing.
So just to touch just quickly again, just on antiviruses. So you get the free version and the paid version.
Yep.
Is there normally a difference in strength from the free version to the paid?
Yes, there's a big difference between AVG free and AVG the version you pay money for, the monthly fee.
Yeah.
The monthly fee one has a lot more capability, and it also works a lot faster.
Right.
Okay, so the AVG and the AVG free, they're the same product, but some things are not working or not. They're disabled and not in the system until you pay for it.
So it's not just the obvious things like if you get the free, you don't get the system tune-up, you don't get the firewall, you don't get the email scanning. You're saying in the actual antivirus kernel or whatever they want to call it, the engine, it's different. Like, okay, right.
And on top of that, some free antivirus things have got adverts and and all that sort of stuff that comes with it. And they really do try to push you into buying something. As I said, the best free antivirus software that we've come across is the 40 client, and that goes on everything except Windows phones.
Yes.
But it'll sit on Android, it'll sit on iOS, it'll sit on anything that's related to a computer, and it'll sit on Apple. The only thing it doesn't do is Windows 10 on a phone.
Right.
Don't know. They're working on that at the moment. And it doesn't do a Linux. They haven't got a Linux version. But Linux is, in Linux respect, there's two things going for Linux. One is it's security and obscurity because nobody understands what the bloody hell the system is doing. So they can't really write viruses for it.
Yeah.
But because Linux is now becoming something very similar to Windows and it incorporates things in their browser, then there's a good chance that a plug-in can be infected. You are then infected in that type of level. Going back to the last two things about last one thing is you need to do a backup.
Yes.
You need to do a regular backup. It doesn't matter how you do it, whether you do it to USB drive, whether you do it to an internet hosting service. Get a backup.
Yeah, get something.
Something, anything, because if I drop my phone in the toilet, then everything that is on my phone is now gone unless I have a backup. And there's no real way, apart from spending a hell of a lot of money, of getting my information off a phone that has been dropped in the toilet.
That's right. That's right. It'd be a filthy job too.
Yeah. Well, and those five things are really important for whether it's personal, whether it's a business. If you have those five criteria in place, then you are no longer low-hanging fruit. Two other components. Get paranoid.
Yeah.
Okay, because the bad guys are after you. And it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, they are going to target you because of one simple thing. You are connected to the internet.
Yes.
In some way or form, your connection to the internet makes you a target.
Yes.
And the other one is use common sense. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. If it's you're looking for something on the website and you've got to use common sense of, for instance, going back to our discussion a couple of weeks ago about drivers, for instance. if you're looking for a driver for your printer because you've just upgraded to Windows 10 and you haven't got the new driver, or you want to upgrade the Windows 7 driver to a Windows 10 driver, and you do a search for it, look for the version that is coming from the supplier, not from the one that's coming from softwarehp.com, because it's not HP. It's only used to dupe and confuse people.
Yeah. So just touching back on firewalls, would you employ like a software firewall, like something like Zone Alarm or something like that?
I would try not to. Again, as a firewall, I would try and keep it away from the systems that are already using it. And that way it means that if something happens, you can actually rip it out and put another one in. Okay, so you don't have to lose your system to get it repaired or do anything else. Most of them are set and forget, which is also a very good component of it. And on top of that, if we have a problem with, if we have a firewall and we want to change rules, we have to change rules on the firewall, not on the PC. And by changing the rules, then there's a real good way of protecting yourself as well.
Right. Now, sort of just to round off, say, the episode, and to get back to the topic then. So if I'm the boss, I've got no IT knowledge whatsoever. I'm pretty dumb in that sort of respect. I do have an IT guy, like, you know, he pretty much, say, 3/4 of his full-time job. The other quarter, he files, cleans the toilets, all that sort of stuff. What sort of questions... Because he tells me everything's okay. He says, don't worry about anything. I know what I'm doing. Everything's fine. What sort of questions should I be asking him? And what sort of responses should I be getting? So it should be, do we have a firewall?
Yes. Start with the basics. Do we have a firewall? Do we have antivirus on each system? Are we using complex passwords? So that's just 3. The next questions are, if we've got a firewall, what are the outgoing ports? What are the incoming ports that are allowing information into the system?
Right.
Because outgoing ports should be anything based on internet. So port 80, port 443 going out. So I can make a request, 53 for DNS.
Yes.
Okay, so I can get information out. It's coming in on a connection that I've established, and there's a rule in most systems that say if it's an established connection from inside, it's allowed back in. But if it's not an established connection, it's not allowed back in. So the idea of a firewall literally is to put up a wall between you and the internet.
Yes.
And yes, you need to open the doors to get onto the internet and get information, but you don't want anybody from the internet coming through and opening a door itself.
No.
Okay, and that's what the firewall's main role is to do. Now, as you spend more money, you then go to a thing called a second generation firewall, which actually inspects information going through those doors.
Yes.
So in other words, if I've got a system that says I'm going to look for port 80 going out, and I have information that's coming back in on a system that is not related to port 80, so it's not an HTTP request, then the firewall sits there and goes, that's crap, I'm not going to allow that in. So it actually acts as a sentry on the door.
Right.
And that's really the next step up for a business, because they need to have that accountability, I suppose. When you start paying for more money for a firewall, you start getting more features.
Yes.
So a $500 Cisco router will have things like ICS, which is I've gone blank.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's all right.
What they have is a system where people are, if they're attacking the firewall, then you're getting reports out of it saying we're being attacked on the firewall.
Right.
Okay, so intrusion detection. That's what I was thinking of.
Yes, because I know that there is a command you can type into the Windows terminal. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but you can see all the ports that are open and all the ports that are just sitting there, just listening.
Yes, and ARP minus S.
Right, and it's
okay, and it's used to tell you whether you've got a port open from the computer going out to the internet, and it actually tells you. It's one of the first basic components that we use to find out if you've been if you have malware installed, because it will open up a port going to somewhere that is not supposed to be going to.
Yeah.
Okay, and it'll have an unusual port number. It'll have an unusual component that's going out there. And if you can see that, you can then start shutting down that port to a level where you can actually control what the ARP is doing.
And a lot of the software that you install, like the Adobes and all that sort of stuff, they'll just open up a listening port.
Yes.
So they must be able to check your authenticity through it or something. Just whenever
licensing is a big one.
Yeah. And I guess like the more ports that are open, that'd be slowing you down somewhat.
Not so much slowing you down, just makes you more vulnerable more than anything else. Because if they know that those ports, if the scanning software that people are using is looking for those ports that are open and then finding out what is behind those ports. We have a system. We use a system called Kali, which has an embedded system called Nessus, and Nessus actually then goes off and goes, this is the IP address, what is available? And then it comes back and goes, you've got FTP open, you've got HTTP open, you've got HTTPS open, and these are the things that are on the back end. So we might have an Apache server there.
Yes.
Okay, Apache is running this version because that information is now there. I can then use Nessus to find out exactly what I can use to break that system. Okay, and that's exactly what the bad guys do.
Yeah.
They really do look at the alternatives of how they are going to get in. And when we're doing the Zint course at ADFA, we actually show them how this happens by using a system we can compromise.
Well, is there any point, like say, to try and tidy up the World Wide Web? Is there any any validity in saying, okay, well, who cares about China? Let's just block everything from China, everything from Russia, Romania.
Can be done, but again, the cyber criminals work on the system that they can't. They can literally take over someone's PC and then use that PC to target someone else.
Yeah.
So we may, as a country, let's say we take out China. So they go and infect someone in England, and then they come in as targeting from England.
Yeah.
It can't be done because of the way the internet works, but there are ways of managing it, and I think that is something that we really have to look at. The management of the internet and how it's not taking away what it can do, but how people use it is probably a better way of doing it.
And probably just to finish up, I just want to ask you. So, like, if you're watching the world news, you know that Hillary Clinton had this private email server.
Yeah.
So is that
security with the obscurity? Yes.
Yeah. So she had it in the bathroom or something.
Yeah.
That's beside
Laundry
the
cupboard.
Yeah, keep it cool.
Come on, get it right.
But like she would have employed like probably a pretty smart guy to install it. You would imagine. So that would have nowhere near the level of security that would have come if she had had.
No, one of the things they're worried about is. It doesn't matter how it was set up. We can guarantee that it wasn't set up to Department of Defense capabilities. So it wasn't hardened to protect it. It wasn't running software that had been approved. And that's what the real big thing about it is. As I said, it was really security by obscurity. Nobody knew it was happening. Nobody knew where the information was stored. Nobody knew how it was set up and all that sort of stuff. But if anybody who had a system ping that IP address, then did a search, found out what was on the back end and then targeted it, then there would have been no stopping it either. And I think that's the other thing that people forget. Yeah,
did I hear, I'm not sure if you're how up on it you are, but did I hear that Russia said they've got a whole dossier of her emails?
Yeah, some of it's. I can guarantee they would have. It's a nation state. They would have this information anyway. But how they got it, they can actually now say that they got it from this place, even though they might have got it from inside the network.
Yeah, right. Just to cause trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so why would she have done that? Do you think? Like, why would someone want to have? Is she just blasé about the whole thing?
I think this is the problem with 90% of the people who use the digital world. We do not understand what happens in the background. I'm in the space all the time. I'm talking about it. I'm educating people and everything else. And the comments we get back are usually they're really fourfold. One is it won't happen to me. Okay, and we can prove that yes, it has happened to you. And I had a look at that website we were talking about last episode, the pwned one. You have been pwned, right? I ran all of my email addresses, and I found that the compromise on Adobe was where all my email addresses were compromised. But I was clever enough, because Adobe was 2011, I think it was. All of those email addresses have now got changed passwords anyway, so just as part of the process that I put in place. The other things are, we are too small to be a target. Yeah, if you're connected to the internet, you're a target. Irrelevant. It doesn't matter who you are, or what you do. You are connected to the digital world. You are a target. The third one is I have nothing worth stealing. Okay, and you may consider yourself, even for instance, you may consider your computers are only running what we're doing right now. But if they get hold of it, they know you're connected to the internet. So your computer now becomes a zombie or a botnet robot. So that technology then becomes something that they can then utilize for their own means. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, China infecting someone in England who's then targeting someone in Australia. That type of system is how it all happens, because someone said, I've got nothing worth stealing. You may not have credit card information on there. You may not have email on that system, but you are connected to the digital world. You can be used. And the last one, and the one that we really come across, is digital criminals are stupid and they can never attack me. And I'm thinking, a 14-year-old with a bit of nous about the internet can do more damage to people than they actually realize how bad they are. We came across a 15-year-old recently who was making 10,000 bitcoins a month. 15.
That's massive.
Yes. It's a huge amount of money.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a lot of money.
But on top of that, it was a 15-year-old. He was doing it from home. Mum and Dad didn't know anything. What?
Well, I think that the prize for We Know Better, it could never happen to us. We'll give that to Hillary this week.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
She was obviously just totally just blasé.
That's again, it's
email. So.
It's an attitude that people have to break.
Yeah.
The digital criminals, they may not be intelligent, but when it comes to the internet, they're a damn sight more intelligent than most people who use it.
10,000 bitcoins a
yeah,
month.
It's staggering.
Where can I get that software?
But he was writing his own code. He was, and this is the other thing. He was a semi-autistic kid who could literally talk and write computer language. So he knew how to get around things. He'd done a lot of study. He'd used Google.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy
Again,
stuff.
all of this sort of information, he's there.
All right. Good stuff. All right. So that probably ends out this episode. So thanks for listening. Next time, we're going to dabble with the We Only Need Endpoint Solutions.
Yes.
All right. So stay tuned for the next episode of that. Thanks, Roger, for joining us again and imparting some of your wisdom to us. It's very good. And you can reach Roger at SME Security on the Twitter or rniconsulting.com.au. And also you can reach me at Aussie Tech Heads or at Glenn Goodman on the Twitter or athwebhosting.com.au. All right, good stuff.
Okay, mate. No worries. Thank you very much.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.